You know how regular cliffhangers are? They usually keep you there for one reason, or one problem that needs to be solved. What Breaking Bad does, it makes multiple problems throughout the story, so that in one episode, there's so many problems happening, you're like, oh man, how is this gonna solve itself? But your mind just sort of remembers that things are unfinished. For example, in the first episode of Breaking Bad, Walter's own actions caused him to have more problems. For example, he now has lung cancer. Okay, that wasn't his fault. But because of it, he decides to quit his job working at a car wash. He's a father. That's a second job that he uses to support his family. Now, second problem. He decides to cook meth with a former student. That could already get him into a myriad of messes, which he does later on in the episode. This Jesse-Walt partnership is throughout the entire show. So Walt is really always at risk. He's always too deep in. His third problem is that he has decided to cook meth, obviously. And to do that, he has quote-unquote stolen, even though he's a science teacher, he shouldn't be bringing that outside of the school, the science equipment, flasks and bottles and all. And this actually does make problems for him a couple episodes later, when his brother-in-law comes to investigate him. And that's another problem he has. His brother-in-law is a DEA agent, and he has decided to cook drugs. Not a very wise choice. The beginning of this episode, which is really the end, a foreshadowing, is of him saying goodbye to his family. That's another part of the show that will haunt him for its duration. Him dying is a problem because he has a family. He's assuming that he will die and be caught. But he obviously doesn't, because there's 5 other seasons. What he thinks is a police siren turns out to be a fire truck siren, quickly hides his gun in his diaper, and then steps to the side of the road. Walter's held at gunpoint and forced to cook meth for Crazy 8, and then he devises a way to get out of the situation. But on the worst side, now he has 2 dead bodies to worry about and a knocked out Jesse. And later on, when Jesse wakes up, the 2 dead bodies. There is still that problem. And basically the next 3 episodes revolve around that situation while Walt has to go back and forth from his house. And the episode ends on that cliffhanger. It's a sigh of relief because he didn't actually die or get caught by the police. It could have ended so many different ways for him. He could have died from that raid at the beginning that he was watching when he saw Jesse at first. It keeps you wondering what his fate will be. And Breaking Bad does this by having problems stack over time. Like when the plan to take down Gustavo Fring using the rice and cigarette, but Jesse hesitates. And then when Gustavo invites Jesse over for dinner, and then Jesse doesn't put a little bit of the cigarette into the pot, Walt and Jesse get into an argument afterwards. Meanwhile, Jesse argues that they were eating from the same pot. How is he supposed to do that? And then Walt is like, just find a way. Like, I don't know. Like, they contrast in every way possible. Jesse's being logical with it, and he was actually there, so he actually saw what was happening. And then Walt is just kind of being sort of unreasonable. He's kind of desperate, it seems. And meanwhile, Jesse's waiting for the right moment. Putting the poison in there with both in the pot would have been done. Anyways, yeah. These wants and needs, whatever, these ambitions were instilled in these characters. It was built into them. And after you do that, you just have to have things happen and then they'll react accordingly. The same exact thing happens in The Walking Dead. In season 2, spoilers for Walking Dead season 2, obviously. So Rick's group arrives at Herschel's farm. Wants to stay there because it's safe and there's not many walkers around there. Also, it's a farm, there's food. Glenn from Rick's group and Maggie from Herschel's group take a liking to each other. Glenn finds out that they're keeping walkers in the barn. Maggie explains that the reason that they keep all the walkers in the barn. So then Glenn tells Rick. When they arrive on the farm, Herschel tells Rick's group that they have a no-guns policy. Shane really likes his guns. Remember this. Then Herschel and Rick argue about how Herschel doesn't want Rick's people to stay here for that long. He just wants them to recuperate and then leave. While Rick argues that his group should stay there because there's plenty of food and his wife is pregnant now. Meanwhile, Shane finds out the barn has walkers, then takes things into his own hands. So Shane gets back his guns, and then this whole barn situation diffuses, and while Rick is trying to help bring more walkers into the barn, because they just keep on filling it up, apparently, and then slowly but surely, all the other members of Rick's group find out. Meanwhile, they're all looking for Sophia, which is someone's daughter that went missing a while ago, and they're still looking for her while this is happening. Shane and the others just start to absolutely blast all the walkers in the farm, and then they even shoot the one that Rick was trying to catch or whatever. And then, at the very end, once all the slaughter has happened, Sophia, as a walker, as a zombie, walks out in front of them, and then Shane shoots her. And I haven't watched after that point, but what I assume happens is a big debate on, if that barn didn't exist, maybe Sophia would still be with us, and then they start arguing over that again, and they probably leave, and then Rick's group probably leaves the barn, which then leads to Maggie and Glenn being like, well, do I leave you, or does Glenn stay at the barn with them, or does Maggie leave with Rick's group? Because Glenn and Maggie, they kind of have a thing going on. But yeah, that's a really good example of that. Another way you could do this is like you force your characters into situations where it would be like their only option to do this. Like, for example, so say a character has like water powers or whatever. Say one character, so we have 2 characters here, and then a fire starts, and then the fire alarm goes off, and then one character says, don't use your water power. So it's like, if he doesn't put out the fire, people are gonna die in the building. If he does put out the fire, then he's gonna have a problem with that character who's told him not to do it for whatever reason. But let's just say that character's like just so stuck up that they told him not to do it or whatever, and they would be mad anyways, even if all those people died. Who knows? Maybe they're a villain, and that's usually the case. But sometimes it be your own people, which leads me to my next point. I've been watching Naruto Shippuden. I'm on episode 50, and it's really good. But there's an instance of this in that show. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched up to episode 60, aka the point where they actually find Sasuke. But the trick is to make your character's very existence, like things that they like. It could be things that they wear. It could be what they do, like their role. Like just have it be a problem to somebody somewhere, and it's just gonna cause a problem. For example, the default Naruto squad is Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke, and they're watched by Kakashi. That's like their leader, quote unquote. He's their overseer in a way. Now, a chain of events that only happened because people hate each other. Long story short, Sasuke's brother wants Sasuke to be strong. At the moment, Sasuke is not strong enough to beat him. Sasuke's brother wants him to fight him. So now, Sasuke's brother, Itachi, that's his name, has set a requirement for Sasuke to get to. And the longer that Sasuke does not submit this requirement, it still becomes a problem. So this leads to Sasuke going to Orochimaru, which is a evil guy. But now that's a problem for Naruto because Naruto already has a rivalry with Sasuke, and they want to be more stronger, more powerful than each other. And also, Sakura does not want Naruto and Sasuke to fight, and neither does Kakashi. So when Sasuke leaves, Naruto follows, and so does Kakashi. And it's just this push and pull of problems. I love it. And I feel like stacking these type of problems up against each other, like once you have like little things that build up, it just starts like flowing by itself. It's an amazing tool. I feel like it's like the best. What I'm telling you right now, this is like the best way to like drag on your story, really. I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of, for characters specifically, man, it could go on with two people. It could just be Naruto and Sasuke. And at times, and sometimes, the only two-person conflict here is the conflict between you, the person watching the video, and me, the one who's been ranting. This is the end of the video. Subscribe if you haven't that many. And also, I usually have a poll for what people want, what you want my next video to be about in my community tab, so check that out. Or it might just come up while you're scrolling. What's your favorite use of problems in fiction, or in a show you watch, whatever? And yeah. I forgot to mention things about like A and B plots. That's basically another problems thing as well.